The special time of the astrological new year is coinciding with the transition of Jinki 25 that is inviting us to contemplate on the universal law and the universal love. It's beginning with the shadow of the constriction that is transformed by acceptance, and that leads us into the universal love. And this time of equinox, this time of astrological new year, is the time when we are celebrating the sun, the return of the sun in its strongest position of the Aries, and bringing with us all the power, all the light, all the warmth, all the potential, all the divine spark. And who, if not sun, is the most incredible symbol of unconditional universal love? Because sun constantly gives to the earth regardless of Earth's condition, of Earth's habitants' condition. So sun never judges us, it's just there for us in the beginning of every day all the way until the night. And then of course it continues to shine on the other part of the world. So it's this quality of unlimited, abundant love to everyone and to everything. And as above, so below, so we humans can also experience this type of giving love towards each other all the time and towards everything else all the time. However, what happens is that we often find ourselves constricted. And constriction is a wonderful way to think and understand this when we think of constriction within our physical bodies. When our bodies are in pain, usually our bodies constrict and contract and close up and spasm and create a restriction on movement. And when that happens, it just does not happen because body decided itself that it's going to shut down. It happens for a specific reason. It happens specifically in our body because there is an injury or there is a faulty movement pattern that we keep on being engaged in, and our body says no more. We cannot continue this dysfunction. We cannot continue reproducing any results while using this dysfunctional pattern of movement. So our body stops and constricts with pain. So pain is an incredible teacher. Pain as an incredible guide to show us where we need to create more awareness. Where do we need to re-envision and review our values, our attitudes. And a lot of times, constriction, regardless if it's physical or emotional or spiritual constriction, it is very well felt dynamic within our beings. It does not feel great for a lot of us. It also is the time when we feel stagnant. We feel we can move either physically or we cannot move emotionally. We feel locked in. And there is this sort of stagnation of aliveness, stagnation of life force within us. And once that awareness is harnessed, that constriction is teaching or telling us something, just like every shadow contains a gift. So constriction contains a gift of acceptance, and with that is the gift of universal love. So then we are slowly beginning the process of acceptance. And I love the way that Richard Rudd explained acceptance, or the process of acceptance, the way that we go through it in few stages. So the first stage of the acceptance is simply to allow the pain, allow that experience of constriction to be with you, to be within your body, to be within your system. And for a lot of us, myself including, it's an overwhelming experience. It's an overwhelming experience that sometimes our nervous system is not ready for it. And there is a great deal of resistance of not allowing or not feeling that constriction or not feeling that pain within our body. What's also important to understand that just by simple fact of allowing pain, it does not mean that we also in that moment have to understand the pain. We don't. We simply create space for this teacher pain coming into our life and point us into the direction of healing, into the direction of acceptance, what we need to accept. And then slowly, gradually, as our nervous system builds up a little bit more capacity to handle the pain, when the pain does not become this overwhelming anymore, we start to create field of acceptance. And this is where the possibility of transformation of this pain starts to become more available to us. We might envision even what our life could be without this pain. Yet, being incredibly allowing and grateful for the opportunity to experience pain and experience this learning process. And also, with acceptance, allowing ourselves time to be with the pain, work with the pain. And that's where how acceptance also gradually happens. And then the last stage is the stage of embrace of the pain, where we are working with the pain, where we are using pain as the teacher, and the stage of integration. So embrace or integration, I call it integration, where we can actually look at this experience and withdraw the essence, withdraw the learning, withdraw the wisdom of what has been shown to us. And so we are loving, we are approaching this universal love towards our suffering. We're approaching universal love towards our experiences of pain. Because everything within our lives, everything in our life is, everyone in our life is the potential source of our suffering, of our learning, but also a potential source of our healing. And exactly this year, 2021, at this time of this transit of Junki 25, we are also experiencing quite a few planets coming in the combination together in the constellation of Aries. So we have Sun, and we have Venus, and we also have the smaller asteroid Chiron that is also coming in this beautiful combination. And so the theme of healing, our sacred wounds healing, coming forward pretty strongly this time. A sacred wound, what is the sacred wound? It's our deep-seated wounding of our psyche. Some part of our psyche, some, let's call, area of our body-soul complex that is experiencing this vulnerability at a level that is excruciatingly painful. and that sometimes or often actually expresses in different dynamics in our lives. And oftentimes we are inviting events and people in our life that will point out to us that specific wounding. And if we are not aware, if we are not allowing, if we are not having a system or a practice that helps us to look into these patterns, we keep on running on and on and on and on into the same wounding, into the same pattern that needs to be healed. And the beauty with the sacred wound is that the moment we have a better understanding of it, or the moment we fully allow and accept that wound and embrace that wound, we are then having this incredible potential of constantly channeling universal love. Because we now, since we embrace that sacred wound within us, we now understand that everyone else have their vulnerable spots, have their sacred wounds. They are either not aware of, or if they are working on it, they are working with that wound at their level of awareness. Just so incredibly important to remember that we all are at a different speed of understanding and working with our wounds and growing and learning. And remembering universal law, which also inspiring this myth of Chiron. And Chiron was a centaur, this sort of half horse, half human being that was born, that his father was Saturn, or Chiron was Cronus, and he was not accepted by his father, so he was an abandoned sort of child. So deeply wounded, abandoned child, yet he was adopted by the sun god Apollo. And so here we go again, just like we started this message with the sun. Sun as constant giver of warmth, of love, of energy. So then Apollo, god of the sun, adopted Chiron, and usually all these titans, centaurs, sort of monsters, were very wild and very not necessarily great characters in the mythology. But this specific centaur, the Chiron, he became very loving, very wise being through the love of Apollo. Even though he was an abandoned child with deep trauma, he yet became a healer. He became a healer, a philosopher. And then he continued the tradition of healing and transmitting the wisdom, adopting some other gods and demigods and teaching them incredible gifts of medicine and philosophy and other arts. And so to remember, it's very, very important to constantly remind ourselves and remember that through our own healing and accepting of our own wounds and working with our constrictions, we are creating universal love that channels through us, but also into others, becoming this unfolding source of energy that simply comes through us, nourishing us, but also nourishing others, helping others to transform, giving others energy to transform. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. With gratitude and love, your Rocket.